She was crying in the rain, until a stranger offered shelter and said, "Come inside, please." Before we explore all the details of this incredible story, tell us where you're following us from and the time. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss a thing, and let's embark on this journey together. The phone call ended with a silence louder than the Seattle rain hammering against the cafe windows. LaTonya Denise Harris stood frozen on the sidewalk outside Grind Coffee, her Nike Air Max sneakers already soaked through, her straight black hair clinging to her neck like dark ribbons. The city lights blurred through her tears, or maybe it was just the rain. At 29, she'd learned to tell the difference between crying and drowning. But tonight, both felt the same. "You're choosing work over family again, LaTonya." Again. Keshia's words echoed in her mind, each syllable sharp as broken glass. Her little sister's voice had cracked with frustration, that familiar tone that always made LaTonya's chest tighten with guilt. The cafe door chimed behind her, releasing a burst of warm air and the comforting smell of espresso. She should go back inside, should order another oat milk latte, and pretend her world wasn't falling apart one phone call at a time. Instead, she pressed her back against the brick wall, letting the rain wash over her like a cold baptism. Her phone buzzed. A text from Keshia. "I'm sorry for yelling. I just miss my sister." LaTonya's thumb hovered over the keyboard. What could she say? That she worked 60-hour weeks at the call center just to afford her anxiety medication? That every "have you tried turning it off and on again?" felt like a small death? That she loved her sister, but couldn't bear the weight of being everyone's rock when she was barely holding herself together? The rain intensified, turning the sidewalk into a river of reflected neon. She closed her eyes, feeling the water seep through her denim jacket, and tried to remember when life got so complicated. When did loving someone require an explanation? When did caring about her future become selfish? "Excuse me, miss?" The voice cut through the storm like a warm hand on her shoulder. LaTonya opened her eyes to find a man standing in the cafe doorway, his tall frame silhouetted against the golden light inside. He was white, maybe early 30s, with military short black hair and the kind of strong build that came from real work, not gym memberships. His green eyes held a concern that seemed genuine, not the polite worry of a stranger, but something deeper. "Are you okay?" he asked, stepping closer. Rain immediately began darkening his gray hoodie, but he didn't seem to care. "You look like you could use somewhere dry to stand." LaTonya wiped her face with the back of her hand, unsure if she was clearing away tears or raindrops. "I'm fine," she said automatically, the lie falling flat even to her own ears. The man tilted his head slightly, and something in his expression reminded her of her grandfather, that patient way of listening that made people want to tell the truth. "I'm Marcus," he said simply, "and you're standing in a storm looking like the world just ended. So either you're fine, or you're the kind of person who calls drowning swimming." Despite everything, LaTonya almost smiled. "Is that your professional opinion?" "Professional storm watcher," Marcus said with a small grin. "Been doing it for years. You develop an eye for these things." He gestured toward the cafe. "Come on, let me buy you a coffee. No strings attached, just one human being to another on a really terrible night." LaTonya hesitated. She didn't know this man, didn't know why he cared about a stranger crying in the rain, but something in his voice, in the way he stood there getting soaked just to talk to her, made her chest feel less tight for the first time all evening. "I don't even know you," she said softly. "That's the beauty of it," Marcus replied. "Sometimes strangers are the only ones who can see us clearly. No history, no expectations, just what's right in front of us." Thunder rolled across the sky and the rain picked up again, turning the night into a watercolor painting. LaTonya looked at Marcus, really looked at him. His Adidas sneakers were as wet as hers, his hoodie clinging to his shoulders, but his eyes never wavered from her face. When was the last time someone had looked at her like that, like she was worth standing in the rain for? "I'm LaTonya," she said finally. "Beautiful name," he said, and something in the way he said it made her believe him. "So, LaTonya, what do you say? Coffee, conversation, and maybe a chance to get warm?" She nodded, surprising herself. As they walked toward the cafe door, Marcus gently placed his hand on her lower back. Not possessive, just protective. The simple gesture sent an unexpected warmth through her chest, and for the first time in months, LaTonya felt like maybe, just maybe, she wasn't carrying the weight of the world alone. But as they stepped inside, she caught a glimpse of her reflection in the window. Mascara smudged, hair a mess, looking nothing like the put-together woman she pretended to be on Instagram. The old fear crept back in, whispering the question that had haunted her for years. What happened when someone saw past the surface and realized she was just as broken as everyone else? And in that moment, she realized this stranger might be about to discover exactly who she really was. The cafe wrapped around them like a warm embrace, all exposed brick and Edison bulbs casting golden shadows on rain-streaked windows. Marcus guided Latonia to a corner table, the kind tucked away from the main flow of evening customers. She slid into the worn leather booth, hyper-aware of how her damp jeans squeaked against the seat, how her reflection in the dark window showed every smudge of mascara she'd tried to wipe away. "What's your poison?" Marcus asked, already standing to head to the counter. "And don't say just water, I can tell you're an actual coffee person by the way you're eyeing that espresso machine." Despite herself, Latonia laughed. "Oat milk latte, extra shot." She paused, then added quietly, "Please, now we're talking." Marcus's smile reached his green eyes, transforming his whole face. "Be right back." As he walked away, Latonia caught herself watching the confident way he moved through the crowd, how he nodded to the barista like they were old friends. Her phone buzzed against the table, another text from Keishia probably, but for once, she didn't immediately check it. Instead, she found herself studying this stranger who'd pulled her out of the storm. Marcus returned with 2 steaming mugs, sliding a perfectly crafted latte across to her before settling into the booth with his own black coffee. "So," he said, wrapping his hands around his mug, "want to talk about what had you crying in a Seattle downpour? Or should we start with something easier, like your favorite conspiracy theory?" "Conspiracy theory?" Latonia raised an eyebrow, taking her first sip. The coffee was exactly right, hot, smooth, with that perfect foam art she usually only saw on Instagram. "Everyone's got one," Marcus said with a shrug. "Mine's that coffee shops deliberately make their music just loud enough that you have to lean in closer to hear the person across from you. Instant intimacy." "That's not a conspiracy," Latonia said, surprising herself by leaning forward slightly. "That's just good business." "Ah, so you're practical and mysterious." Marcus's eyes crinkled with amusement. "What do you do when you're not getting caught in storms?" The question hit harder than it should have. Latonia's grip tightened on her mug. "I work at a call center downtown. You know, have you tried turning it off and on again? For 8 hours straight." "Rough day?" he asked gently, and something in his tone made her look up sharply. There was no judgment there, no pity, just genuine curiosity. "Rough year," she admitted. "Actually, rough couple of years. My sister thinks I'm choosing work over family, but she doesn't understand that some of us don't have the luxury of following our dreams. Some of us have bills and anxiety medication," and she stopped abruptly. "Sorry, you didn't ask for my life story." "Actually, I kind of did," Marcus said softly. "And for what it's worth, supporting yourself isn't selfish. It's survival." Latonia studied his face, looking for the catch. In her experience, men who seemed too understanding usually wanted something. "What about you? What's your day job when you're not rescuing strangers from storms?" Marcus laughed, but it wasn't entirely happy. "I deliver food. DoorDash, Uber Eats, whatever pays. Been biking around Seattle for 2 years now, dodging traffic and dealing with people who think their Thai food is a life or death emergency." "That's..." Latonia paused, realizing she'd been about to say honest like it was surprising. "That's real work, hard work." "Yeah, well, it pays the bills, mostly." Marcus took a long sip of his coffee. "I used to play guitar, actually. Had this whole dream of making music, but life got in the way. Now I just pedal around the city and listen to other people's dreams through my earbuds." There it was, that crack in the armor that made him real. Latonia felt something shift in her chest, a recognition of shared disappointment. "Do you miss it? The music?" "Every single day," he said without hesitation. "But wanting something and being able to afford it are 2 different things, you know." "God, yes. I wanted to be a teacher once," Latonia heard herself saying. "Elementary school. I loved the idea of helping kids discover things, being that person who makes learning fun. But student loans and reality and..." She gestured vaguely. "Here we are." "Here we are," Marcus echoed, but he was smiling. 2 dreamers drinking coffee in a storm. Latonia's phone buzzed again, more insistently this time. She glanced at it and saw 3 missed calls from Keishia. The warm bubble of their conversation popped like a soap bubble. "Everything okay?" Marcus asked, noticing her expression change. "My sister," Latonia said, staring at the phone. "She's persistent, and right now she thinks I'm a terrible person who cares more about work than family." "Are you?" The blunt question caught her off guard. "What? Are you a terrible person who cares more about work than family?" Marcus leaned back slightly, his green eyes serious but not unkind. Because from where I'm sitting, you look like someone who's doing her best with a difficult situation. Latonia felt her throat tighten. When was the last time someone had defended her to herself? I don't know anymore. I love Keshia, but she's 25 and still thinks the world works like a Disney movie. She doesn't understand that I can't just quit my job and follow my heart. I have responsibilities. And she doesn't. She lives with our cousin, works part-time at a boutique, and spends half her day making TikTok videos about how to be your authentic self. Latonia's voice carried more bitterness than she'd intended. Everything's an adventure to her. Everything's possible. Marcus was quiet for a moment, turning his coffee mug in slow circles. Sounds like you love her a lot. I do. That's the problem. Latonia looked out at the rain, which was finally starting to ease. She wants her big sister back, the one who used to sneak her ice cream and stay up late watching movies. But that person, I don't know if she exists anymore. Maybe she doesn't, Marcus said gently. Maybe you're someone different now. Someone who's survived things and learned things and grown up in ways that 25-year-old you couldn't imagine. That's not a bad thing, Latonia. The way he said her name, like it mattered, like she mattered, made her chest feel tight in an entirely different way. You don't even know me. I know you work hard. I know you care about people. I know you stood in the rain crying because someone you love is disappointed in you. Marcus's voice was steady, certain. I know you're stronger than you think you are. Latonia stared at him. This stranger who'd pulled her out of the storm and somehow seen straight through to the part of her she'd forgotten existed, the part that wasn't tired or anxious or guilty, just human. Her phone rang. Keshia's contact photo filled the screen. A bright, laughing selfie with rainbow-colored hair twists and oversized glasses. I should probably... Latonia gestured at the phone. Answer it, Marcus said simply. I'll be right here. And as Latonia swiped to accept the call, she realized something that both thrilled and terrified her. She actually believed him. Latonia! Girl, where are you? I've been calling for an hour. Keshia's voice crackled through the phone speaker, a mix of worry and frustration that made Latonia's stomach clench. She glanced at Marcus, who gave her an encouraging nod before pointedly looking away, giving her the illusion of privacy in the crowded cafe. I'm having coffee, Latonia said, her voice barely above a whisper. Downtown. Coffee? At 9 o'clock at night? In this weather? Keshia's tone shifted, becoming the concerned little sister Latonia remembered from childhood. Tonya, what's going on? You sounded so upset earlier, and then you just disappeared. Latonia closed her eyes, feeling the weight of the evening pressing down on her shoulders. I needed to think, Kesh. After our fight, I couldn't go home and pretend everything was fine. There was a pause on the other end of the line. When Keshia spoke again, her voice was softer. I'm sorry I yelled. I know you're doing your best. It's just, I miss you, Tonya. I miss us. Remember when we used to talk every day? When you'd come over just to watch me try on clothes and complain about my latest dating disaster? The memory hit Latonia like a physical blow. She did remember. Saturday afternoons at Keshia's place, her sister modeling thrift store finds while they shared a bag of hot Cheetos and dissected every text message from whatever guy had caught Keshia's attention that week. When had they stopped doing that? I remember, Latonia said quietly, but things are different now, Kesh. I'm different. Different how? Because you work too much? Because you're always tired and stressed? That's not different, Tonya. That's just sad. Marcus was studying his coffee with intense concentration, but Latonia could tell he was listening. Somehow his presence made the conversation feel less overwhelming, like she had an anchor in the storm. It's not that simple, Latonia said. I have bills, responsibilities. And I don't? Keshia's voice flared with sudden anger. You think because I'm younger, because I work part-time, because I'm trying to build something creative, that I don't understand real life? I pay rent, Tonya. I buy groceries. I deal with rude customers and demanding bosses just like you do. That's not what I meant. Then what did you mean? Because from where I'm sitting, it sounds like you think your struggles are more important than mine. Like because you chose a job that makes you miserable, that somehow makes you more adult than me. Latonia felt tears prick at her eyes again. This wasn't how she wanted this conversation to go. Keshia, please. No, let me finish. You want to know why I'm so frustrated? It's because I watch my big sister, the woman who taught me to be brave, who used to sing in the car and dance in grocery store aisles, disappear a little more every day. You're so busy surviving that you forgot how to live. The words hung in the air like smoke. Latonia stared at the table, watching steam rise from her cooling latte, feeling exposed in a way that made her want to run back out into the rain. "I'm trying, Kesh," she whispered. "I'm trying so hard, but I don't know how to be the person you want me to be anymore. I don't want you to be anyone but yourself, Tonya. The real you, not the exhausted, anxious version you've been hiding behind for the past 2 years." Marcus reached across the table then, his fingers brushing against hers in a gesture so gentle it almost undid her completely. The warmth of his touch grounded her, reminded her she wasn't alone in this moment. "So I'm scared," LaTonya admitted, the words tumbling out before she could stop them. "I'm scared that if I stop working so hard, if I let myself want things again, I'll fall apart. I'm scared that if I take risks, I'll end up with nothing. And I'm scared that if I don't change, I'll lose you forever." The silence on the other end of the line stretched so long that LaTonya wondered if the call had dropped. Finally, Keshia spoke, her voice thick with emotion. "Tonya, you could never lose me. Never. But I'm scared too. I'm scared I'm watching you disappear, and I don't know how to help you find your way back." "I don't know how either," LaTonya said, looking up at Marcus. His green eyes were full of understanding, and something else, something that looked like hope. "Maybe," Keshia's voice was hesitant now, "maybe you don't have to figure it out alone. Maybe it's okay to let people help you." LaTonya's gaze didn't leave Marcus's face. "Maybe it is. Are you really okay? Where are you exactly?" LaTonya looked around the cafe at the warm lighting, the other couples and friends deep in conversation, the barista wiping down tables with the kind of easy routine that spoke of contentment. "I'm at Grind Coffee, and I think I might be more okay than I've been in a long time." "Grind Coffee? That place downtown? Girl, that's like a 40-minute bus ride from your apartment. What are you doing way over there?" LaTonya met Marcus's eyes again, saw the small smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "I met someone." The squeal that came through the phone was so loud that several nearby customers turned to look. Marcus laughed quietly, and LaTonya found herself smiling despite everything. "You met someone? Like, met someone met someone?" "Tonya Denise Harris, you better start talking right now." "His name is Marcus," LaTonya said, feeling heat rise in her cheeks. He found me crying in the rain and bought me coffee." "Oh my God, that's so romantic. Is he cute? Is he there right now? Put him on the phone." "Keshia, no." But Marcus was already holding out his hand for the phone, grinning. "It's okay," he said. "I can handle interrogation from protective little sisters." Against her better judgment, LaTonya handed over the phone. "Marcus, this is my sister Keshia. Keshia, be nice." "Nice is my middle name," came Keshia's voice through the speaker as Marcus held the phone between them. "Hi Keshia," Marcus said, his voice warm and confident. "I'm Marcus, and before you ask, yes, I'm real. No, I don't have any weird hobbies, and your sister is absolutely incredible." The silence that followed was so complete that LaTonya wondered if Keshia had fainted. "Okay," Keshia said finally, her voice uncharacteristically subdued. "I like him already." Marcus handed the phone back to LaTonya, who was staring at him with a mixture of amazement and terror. In 30 seconds, he'd managed to charm her notoriously suspicious sister and make her feel more seen than she had in months. "Tonya," Keshia's voice was gentle now, "come see me tomorrow. We need to talk, really talk, and I want to hear everything about this Marcus person." "Okay," LaTonya said, surprising herself. "I'll come by after work." "Good. And Tonya, I love you. Even when I'm frustrated with you, even when we fight, I love you." "I love you too, Kesh." After she hung up, LaTonya sat in silence for a moment, processing everything that had just happened. Marcus waited patiently, giving her space to breathe. "So," he said finally, "that went better than expected." "Did it?" LaTonya asked, genuinely unsure. "You told your sister the truth. You admitted you were scared, and you agreed to see her tomorrow." Marcus's smile was soft, proud. "Those all sound like brave choices to me." "I don't feel brave. The best kind of bravery never does." As they sat there, the cafe slowly emptying around them, LaTonya realized something had shifted. The tight knot in her chest had loosened, replaced by something she barely recognized, a tentative hope that maybe, just maybe, things could be different. But as she looked at Marcus's kind face, at the way he'd seamlessly stepped into her messy life without judgment, a new fear crept in. What if this was too good to be true? The alarm clock screamed at 6:30 a.m., dragging LaTonya from the first peaceful sleep she'd had in weeks. For a blissful moment, she lay in her small studio apartment, rain pattering against the windows, remembering the warmth of last night. Marcus walking her to the bus stop, the way he'd written his number on a coffee-stained napkin with careful block letters, how he'd waited until her bus actually arrived before heading back to his bike, even though the rain had started again. Then reality crashed back like cold water. She had work in 2 hours. Her supervisor, Janet, had already sent 3 emails about the quarterly performance reviews, and tonight she'd promised to see Keshia, a conversation that would either repair their relationship or shatter it completely. Latonia's phone buzzed on the nightstand, a text from an unknown number. "Good morning, beautiful. Hope you slept better than you have in weeks." Marcus. Despite everything, she smiled. How did he know she'd slept well? She typed back, "Did you slip me some kind of sleeping potion in that coffee?" His response came immediately. "Just good conversation and the magic of human connection. Works every time. How are you feeling about today?" Latonia stared at the question. When was the last time someone had asked her that? Really asked like the answer mattered? "Terrified," she typed honestly. But maybe terrified isn't always bad. Best kind of terrified there is. You've got this, Latonia. And if you don't, you've got people who care about you now. People, plural, as if he was already counting himself as permanent in her life after one evening. The thought should have been overwhelming, but instead it felt like coming up for air after being underwater too long. An hour later, Latonia sat on the crowded bus heading downtown, watching Seattle wake up through rain-streaked windows. The usual cast of characters surrounded her. The businessman with his perpetually dying phone battery, the college student with her oversized headphones, the older woman who always knitted the same blue scarf. Her phone rang. Janet's name flashed on the screen. "Latonia, thank God you're already up. I need you to come in early today. We've got a system crash and half the overnight crew called in sick." Latonia closed her eyes. "How early?" "Can you be here by 8? I know it's short notice, but you're one of my most reliable people." Reliable, the word that defined her entire existence. Reliable Latonia, who never said no, never complained, never put herself first. "I'll be there," she heard herself say. "Hey, you're a lifesaver. Oh, and Latonia, I want to talk to you about something after the crisis dies down, something good." The call ended, leaving Latonia staring at her reflection in the dark window. Something good. In her experience, supervisors who said that usually meant more responsibility, longer hours, or both. Her phone buzzed again. This time it was Keshia. "Can't wait to see you tonight. I'm making your favorite pasta, and we're going to talk about everything." Including this mysterious Marcus person, Latonia's stomach twisted. How was she supposed to explain Marcus to Keshia when she couldn't even explain him to herself? That a stranger had pulled her out of the rain and somehow made her feel like she deserved good things. That for the first time in months, she'd fallen asleep without her anxiety keeping her awake. The bus lurched to a stop downtown, and Latonia joined the stream of commuters heading to their various versions of survival. But as she walked the familiar route to the call center, she found herself noticing things she usually missed. The way morning light filtered through the rain clouds, the smell of fresh bread from the corner bakery, a street musician playing guitar despite the weather. A street musician playing guitar. Latonia stopped walking, causing the businessman behind her to mutter something about tourists. The musician was young, maybe early 20s, with fingers that moved across the strings like they were having a conversation with the instrument. His guitar case was open, collecting both rain and the occasional dollar bill from passers-by. Without thinking, Latonia approached him. "That was beautiful," she said when he finished the song. He looked up, surprised. "Thanks. Not many people stop to listen when it's raining. Do you do this every morning?" "Most mornings." "Got to pay for coffee somehow, right?" He grinned, and Latonia saw something familiar in his expression. That mix of hope and resignation that came with following a dream that didn't always pay the bills. "What's your name?" "Devon." "You?" "Latonia." She pulled a $10 bill from her wallet, money she'd usually save for lunch, and dropped it in his case. "Keep playing, Devon. The world needs more music." As she walked away, she heard him start a new song, something softer and more hopeful than before. Her phone buzzed with another text from Marcus. "Hope your day is full of small magic moments." Latonia looked back at Devon, still playing for an audience of rain and rushing commuters, and realized that maybe it already was. The call center loomed ahead, all glass and steel and fluorescent lighting. But for the first time in months, Latonia didn't feel the familiar dread settling in her stomach. Instead, she felt something else. A tiny spark of curiosity about what something good might mean, about what tonight's conversation with Keshia would bring, about whether Marcus was real or just a beautiful dream brought on by too much rain and loneliness. She was about to find out that some dreams, the good ones, had a way of becoming reality when you least expected them. As she pushed through the revolving doors into the building's lobby, her phone rang one more time. Marcus again. Couldn't resist. His voice was warm through the speaker. I know you said you have a big day, but I wanted you to know, last night wasn't just good for you. It was good for me, too. Really good. LaTonya found herself smiling as she waited for the elevator. Even the part where my sister interrogated you? Especially that part. She loves you fiercely, LaTonya. That's something special. She does, LaTonya agreed, stepping into the elevator as other employees filed in around her. Marcus? Yeah? Thank you. For last night. For this morning. For, I don't know. For seeing me. Thank you for letting me. As the elevator doors closed, carrying her up to another day of, have you tried turning it off and on again? LaTonya realized that maybe the question wasn't whether she deserved good things. Maybe the question was whether she was brave enough to accept them when they appeared, and for the first time in a very long time, she thought the answer might be yes. The smell of garlic and basil hit LaTonya as soon as Keshia opened the apartment door. About time! Keshia pulled her into a fierce hug, her colorful twists tickling LaTonya's cheek. I've been cooking for an hour, stress cleaning for 2, and overthinking this conversation for approximately 6. LaTonya stepped back to look at her sister properly. Keshia wore oversized cargo pants and a cropped sweater that somehow made her look both younger and more sophisticated than her 25 years. Her apartment reflected the same energy, vintage furniture mixed with plants, fairy lights strung across exposed brick walls, and a ring light set up in the corner for her TikTok videos. You didn't have to go to all this trouble, LaTonya said, hanging her damp jacket on the door. Yes, I did. Keshia's voice was firm. We haven't had a real dinner together in 4 months, Tonya. 4 months, that's not okay. The guilt hit immediately, familiar and sharp. Work has been... Stop. Keshia held up her hand. No work talk until after we eat. This is sister time. Remember sister time? LaTonya followed her to the small kitchen, watching Keshia move around the space with practiced ease. When had her little sister become so capable, so sure of herself in her own space? How was the mysterious coffee date last night? Keshia asked, stirring the pasta sauce with theatrical concentration. And don't you dare try to change the subject. I've been thinking about it all day. It wasn't a date, LaTonya protested, then paused. Was it? Honey, a man pulls you out of the rain, buys you coffee, and charms your baby sister over the phone? That's a date. A good one, Keshia grinned. So spill. Everything. Despite herself, LaTonya found herself talking about Marcus's green eyes and easy smile, about how he'd listened without trying to fix her, about the way he'd made her feel seen without making her feel exposed. And he's a delivery driver? Keshia asked, ladling pasta into 2 bowls. Yeah, DoorDash, Uber Eats. He used to play guitar, but life got in the way, Keshia finished. Sounds familiar. They settled at the small dining table, and for a moment it felt like old times. Just 2 sisters sharing a meal and gossip. But LaTonya could feel the weight of unspoken things hovering between them. Kesh, she said finally. About last night. The things you said were true, Keshia interrupted gently. But maybe I said them wrong. I wasn't trying to hurt you, Tonya. I was trying to reach you. I know. And you were right about some things. I have been hiding. Keshia set down her fork. From what? LaTonya stared at her pasta, trying to find words for feelings she'd buried so deep she'd almost forgotten they existed. From disappointment, I guess. From wanting things I can't have. From being the person who dreams instead of the person who survives. What if you could be both? That's not how life works. Says who? Keshia leaned forward, her eyes bright with passion. Tonya, you're 29 years old. You're smart. You're beautiful. You work harder than anyone I know. Why can't you have dreams and stability? Because dreams don't pay for anxiety medication. Dreams don't keep the lights on or put food in the refrigerator. Dreams are a luxury I can't afford. But what if they're not? What if they're necessary? LaTonya looked up sharply. What do you mean? Keshia pulled out her phone, scrolling through her TikTok account. Look at this, she said, turning the screen toward LaTonya. This video I posted last week about finding your authentic self. It has 50,000 views. 50,000 people connected with something I said about being true to yourself, even when it's scary. That's amazing, Kesh, but I'm not done. Keshia's voice was steady. determined. 3 brands reached out to me this week about partnerships, small ones but real money. And yesterday, a girl from Portland messaged me saying my content helped her leave a toxic relationship. Latonia stared at the phone, seeing her sister's face bright with genuine joy in video after video. When had she stopped paying attention to what Keshia was actually building? I'm not telling you this to brag, Keshia continued. I'm telling you because 6 months ago you would have been the first person I called about all of this. You would have been proud of me, excited with me. Instead, I've been afraid to share good news because I thought you'd see it as me being naive about the real world. The words hit like a physical blow. Keshia, I am proud of you. I'm so proud. Then why does it feel like you think what I'm doing doesn't matter? Latonia set down her fork, her appetite disappearing. Because I'm scared, she whispered. I'm scared that if I get excited about dreams, yours or mine, I'll end up disappointed again. And I can't handle any more disappointment right now. What disappointed you so badly that you stopped believing in good things? The question hung in the air like smoke. Latonia found herself thinking about Marcus, about how easily he'd seen through her defenses, about how terrified she was that he'd disappear as quickly as he'd appeared. Everything, she said finally. The teaching program I couldn't afford. The promotion that went to someone with less experience but more connections. The guy I dated for 8 months who just vanished. One day we were planning a weekend trip. The next day his number was disconnected and his social media was gone. Tonya. Keshia's voice was soft with understanding. I know it sounds dramatic, but it broke something in me. The idea that I could want something, work toward it, believe in it, and then have it just disappear. It's easier to not want anything than to keep getting hurt. Keshia reached across the table and took her hand. But that's not living, Tonya. That's just surviving. And you deserve so much more than survival. Do I? The question came out smaller than Latonia intended. God, yes. You deserve love and dreams and beautiful surprises and all the good things this world has to offer. You deserve a man who pulls you out of the rain and makes you laugh. You deserve work that doesn't drain your soul. You deserve a sister who supports your dreams instead of making you feel guilty for having boundaries. Tears started to blur Latonia's vision. I don't know how to trust good things anymore. Then learn, start small. Trust that this pastor is actually pretty damn good. Trust that I love you no matter what. Trust that maybe, just maybe, Marcus is exactly what he seems to be. A good guy who likes you for all the right reasons. Latonia wiped her eyes with her napkin. What if I mess it up? What if I'm too damaged or too scared or too human? Keshia squeezed her hand. Tonya, everyone's scared. Everyone's a little damaged. That's not what matters. What matters is whether you're willing to try anyway. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, the weight of years of misunderstanding finally lifting. There's something else, Latonia said suddenly. My supervisor wants to talk to me about something good. It might be a promotion, more money, but probably more hours, more stress. What do you want to do? I don't know. The smart thing, the safe thing. But after last night, after talking to Marcus, she paused. I keep thinking about what you said, about choosing to live instead of just survive. Keshia's smile was radiant. Now that sounds like the sister I remember. As they finished dinner, Latonia felt something she hadn't experienced in months. Hope. Not the desperate, grasping kind, but the quiet, steady kind that whispered that maybe, just maybe, things could be different. But as she prepared to leave, her phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. Hope dinner with your sister went well. I have something I need to tell you. Can we talk tomorrow? Something in the tone made her stomach clench with familiar anxiety. Because in her experience, when someone said they needed to talk, it usually meant goodbye was coming. Latonia barely slept that night, Marcus's text message replaying in her mind like a broken record. I have something I need to tell you. Those 8 words had the power to unravel every fragile hope she'd allowed herself to build. By 5 a.m., she'd constructed 17 different scenarios in her head, each one ending with Marcus disappearing from her life as suddenly as he'd entered it. The call center felt especially soul-crushing that morning. Customer after customer called with problems that had no real solutions, their frustration bleeding through the phone lines into her already frayed nerves. By lunch, Latonia had talked 3 people through password resets, explained why their internet was slower during peak hours, and listened to a man yell at her for 20 minutes about a billing error she couldn't fix. Harris? Janet's voice cut through the ambient noise of the call floor. My office, now. Latonia's stomach dropped. She'd been so distracted by thoughts of Marcus that her call resolution time had been slower than usual. Was she about to lose her job on top of everything else? Janet's office was a beige box with motivational posters and a dying plant that somehow managed to look judgmental. Janet herself, a woman in her 50s with steel-grey hair and the permanent posture of someone carrying the world's weight, gestured for LaTonya to sit. "Relax," Janet said, noticing LaTonya's expression. "You're not in trouble. Quite the opposite, actually." "Oh," LaTonya felt her shoulders unclench slightly. "I've been watching your performance metrics for the past year," Janet continued, pulling up something on her computer. "Your customer satisfaction scores are consistently in the top 5%. Your attendance is nearly perfect. And somehow, you manage to handle the difficult calls that make other agents want to quit." LaTonya nodded, unsure where this was going. "Corporate is expanding the training department. They need someone to develop new customer service protocols and train incoming agents. The position comes with a significant salary increase, better benefits, and normal business hours. No more night shifts or overtime requirements." The words took a moment to sink in. "You're offering me a promotion?" "I'm offering you a career change," Janet said with a rare smile. "You'd be good at it, LaTonya. You have patience, empathy, and the ability to explain complex things in simple terms. The job would start in 6 weeks, which gives you time to train your replacement and transition your current caseload." LaTonya stared at Janet, trying to process this information. More money, regular hours, work that didn't involve getting yelled at by strangers all day. It was everything she'd thought she wanted, so why did she feel like she was standing at the edge of a cliff? Can I think about it?" Janet raised an eyebrow. "Most people would have said yes before I finished explaining the benefits package. I know, it's a big decision. Can I have until Friday?" "Of course. But LaTonya, don't overthink this. Good opportunities don't come around often in this business." LaTonya walked back to her desk in a daze, Janet's words echoing in her mind. Don't overthink this. But overthinking was what she did. It was how she survived. Every decision analyzed from 17 different angles, every risk weighed against every possible consequence. Her phone buzzed. "Marcus, can you meet me after work? I know you're probably worried about my text last night. I promise it's not what you think." Not what you think. But what did she think? That he was going to tell her he was married, moving away, that their coffee date had been a mistake? She typed back, "Grind coffee, 6 p.m. Perfect. And LaTonya, thank you for trusting me enough to show up." The rest of the day crawled by with agonizing slowness. Every call seemed to last forever. Every customer complaint felt personal, and every time LaTonya tried to focus on work, her mind wandered to either Janet's job offer or Marcus's mysterious something to tell her. By 5:45, she was sitting in the same corner booth where they'd met, nursing an oat milk latte and trying not to check her phone every 30 seconds. The cafe was busier tonight, filled with the after-work crowd grabbing coffee and comfort food before heading home to their real lives. Marcus walked in at exactly 6 p.m., his hair damp from the perpetual Seattle drizzle, wearing the same grey hoodie from the night they'd met. But something was different about his posture, nervous energy that hadn't been there before. "Hey," he said, sliding into the booth across from her. "Thanks for coming." "Hey yourself." LaTonya studied his face, looking for clues. "You look like you didn't sleep much either." "I didn't." Marcus ran a hand through his short hair. "I kept thinking about how to say this without sounding crazy. Here it comes," LaTonya thought. The goodbye speech, the explanation of why this was all a mistake. "I got offered a job," Marcus said suddenly. Whatever LaTonya had been expecting, it wasn't that. "That's good, right? It's in Portland. Full-time delivery driver for a local company that specializes in eco-friendly food services. Real benefits, steady pay, the chance to actually save money for once." Marcus's green eyes were intense, searching her face. "It's everything I've been hoping for." "Marcus, that's amazing." And it was amazing, so why did she feel like she was drowning? "The thing is," he continued, "they want me to start in 2 weeks. And I've been awake all night trying to figure out how to tell you that I might have to choose between a stable future and the most incredible woman I've met in years." LaTonya blinked. "What?" "I know we've only known each other for 2 days. I know this is crazy, but LaTonya, what we have, this connection, this feeling like I can tell you anything and you'll understand. I've never had that before. Not like this." "Marcus, I'm not asking you to make any big decisions," he said quickly. "I'm not asking you to move to Portland or change your life for someone you barely know. I'm just asking if you think what we have is worth exploring, if maybe we could figure out a way to make this work, even with me 2 hours away. Latonia sat in stunned silence. This wasn't a goodbye speech. This was the opposite of a goodbye speech. This was a man she'd known for 48 hours, telling her that she was worth rearranging his life for. "I got offered a job too," she heard herself saying. Marcus's expression shifted. "Yeah? Training coordinator. Better pay, normal hours, actual career advancement." She paused. "I'm terrified to take it." "Why?" "Because what if I'm not good at it? What if I fail? What if I take the risk and end up worse off than I started?" The words tumbled out faster than she could stop them. "And now you're telling me you might move away, and I don't know how to process any of this because I'm not good at uncertainty and—" "Latonia." Marcus reached across the table and took her hands. "Breathe." She did, focusing on the warmth of his fingers against hers. "Can I tell you something?" he said gently. "From the outside, looking at your life, you're already taking risks. Every day you show up to a job that drains you, hoping it'll get better. Every day you choose to keep going even when you're scared and tired and overwhelmed. That's not playing it safe. That's courage. It doesn't feel like courage. The best kind never does." Marcus squeezed her hands. "What if we both took the leap? You take the promotion, I take the job in Portland, and we see what happens. No guarantees, no promises, except that we'll be honest with each other." Latonia looked at him. Really looked at him. This man who'd pulled her out of the rain, who listened to her sister's interrogation with good humor, who was willing to navigate a long-distance relationship with someone he'd just met because he believed in possibilities. "What if it doesn't work out?" she whispered. "What if it does?" And for the first time in years, Latonia found herself considering the radical possibility that maybe, just maybe, the things she wanted most were also the things she deserved. "Okay," she said so quietly she wasn't sure he'd heard her. "Okay? Okay, let's try. Let's both take the leap and see where we land." Marcus's smile was brighter than every light in the cafe combined, but as he leaned across the table to kiss her, their first kiss soft and full of promise, Latonia couldn't shake the feeling that they were about to discover just how complicated wanting something could be. 3 weeks into their whatever this was, Latonia was learning that falling for someone was nothing like the movies made it seem. It wasn't all stolen kisses and romantic gestures. It was Marcus texting her at 2 a.m. because he couldn't sleep, worrying about whether taking the Portland job was the right choice. It was Latonia having panic attacks in grocery store parking lots because the training coordinator position required her to speak in front of groups of people. It was both of them trying to navigate the space between hope and terror, between dreams and reality. "You're overthinking again," Marcus said. His voice warmed through her phone speaker as she paced around her apartment. "I can practically hear the gears grinding from here." "I'm not overthinking," Latonia protested, then paused. "Okay, I'm definitely overthinking. But Marcus, what if I'm terrible at training people? What if I take this job and everyone realizes I have no idea what I'm doing? Then you'll figure it out. Just like you figured out how to handle angry customers. Just like you figured out how to survive anxiety and still show up every day." His voice was steady, certain. "Latonia, you're stronger than you think you are." Through her apartment window, she could see Marcus sitting on his fire escape across the courtyard, phone pressed to his ear. They'd discovered they lived only 6 blocks apart, a coincidence that felt like the universe nudging them together. Most evenings they talked like this, close enough to see each other, far enough apart to feel safe. "Tell me about Portland again," she said, settling onto her own fire escape. The October air was crisp, carrying the scent of rain and fallen leaves. "It's smaller than Seattle. The food scene is incredible, all these local farms and artisanal everything. And the company I'd be working for actually cares about sustainability, not just profit margins." Marcus's voice carried a note of excitement that made Latonia's chest warm. "There's this neighborhood called Hawthorne where all the musicians hang out. I keep thinking maybe I could start playing again." "You should," Latonia said firmly. "You should absolutely start playing again." "Easy for you to say. You're not the one who has to remember how to hold a guitar without looking like a complete amateur. So you'll look like an amateur for a while. So what? Everyone starts somewhere." There was a comfortable silence between them, filled with the ambient sounds of the city winding down for the night. Latonia watched Marcus through the window, studying the way he absently picked at the strings of an invisible guitar while they talked. "Can I ask you something?" she said suddenly. "Always. Are you scared? About us, I mean. About trying to make this work long distance when we barely know each other." Marcus was quiet for so long that Latonia wondered if the call had dropped. Finally, he spoke, his voice softer than before. "Terrified," he admitted. "I keep thinking about all the ways this could go wrong. You could decide I'm not worth the hassle. I could get to Portland and realize I built this whole thing up in my head. We could drift apart without even meaning to. Those are all real possibilities, Latonia said gently. I know, but you know what scares me more? Marcus stood up, and Latonia could see him through the window, looking directly at her building. The idea of not trying, of looking back in 5 years and wondering what would have happened if I'd been brave enough to believe in something good. Latonia's throat tightened with emotion. When did you get so wise? When I met a woman who made me want to be worthy of the leap. The words hung in the air between them, full of promise and vulnerability. Latonia felt tears prick at her eyes. Happy tears, for once. Marcus? Yeah? I accepted the promotion today. She heard his sharp intake of breath. Latonia, that's incredible. How do you feel? Like I might throw up, she said honestly. But also like maybe for the first time in years, I'm moving towards something instead of just away from everything else. I'm so proud of you. The simple words hit her harder than any grand romantic gesture could have. When was the last time someone had been proud of her? Really, genuinely proud. I start in 2 weeks, she continued. Same day you leave for Portland. Poetic timing, Marcus said with a laugh that sounded slightly forced. We're really doing this, aren't we? Both of us jumping off cliffs at the same time. Looks that way. Latonia stood up from her fire escape, suddenly needing to move. I have to tell you something, and I need you to not try to fix it or make it better. Just listen, okay? I'm listening. I'm falling for you. The words came out in a rush. I know it's too soon and too fast and probably too complicated, but I'm falling for you hard, and it's terrifying because every good thing in my life has had an expiration date. Latonia, I'm not done, she said quickly. I need you to know that whatever happens, whether this works out or crashes and burns or just fades away, these past 3 weeks have been the first time in 2 years that I've felt like myself. The real me, not the anxious, exhausted version I've been pretending is enough. She could see Marcus through the window, phone still pressed to his ear, his expression intense even from 6 blocks away. Can I talk now? He asked softly. Yeah, I'm falling for you too. So hard that it's keeping me awake at night, not because I'm worried about it, but because I don't want to miss a single moment of feeling this way. His voice was rough with emotion. And I need you to know that I'm not going anywhere, not really. Portland is 2 hours away, not 2,000 miles. We can make this work if we want it badly enough. Do you want it badly enough? Latonia, I want it so badly that I'm willing to relearn how to play guitar, just so I can write you songs. I want it so badly that I'm looking at apartments in Portland with good Wi-Fi so we can video chat every night. I want it so badly that I'm scared of how much I want it. Latonia laughed, wiping tears from her cheeks. We're a mess, aren't we? The best kind of mess. They talked for another hour, about everything and nothing, about Marcus's fear that he was too old to start over, about Latonia's anxiety about public speaking, about whether long-distance relationships could actually work in real life instead of just romantic comedies. As they finally said goodnight, Latonia felt something she hadn't experienced in years, the sense that she was exactly where she was supposed to be, even if she didn't know where that would lead. But as she got ready for bed, her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Saw you on the fire escape with Loverboy. Cute. Too bad good things never last for girls like you. A friend. Latonia stared at the message, her blood running cold. Someone had been watching her, someone who knew where she lived, who felt comfortable threatening her happiness. Her hands shaking, she screenshot the message and forwarded it to Marcus with a single word, help. Because suddenly, their fragile new beginning felt a lot more fragile than either of them had imagined. Marcus was at Latonia's door in 12 minutes flat, still wearing pajama pants and a hastily thrown-on jacket. Show me, he said the moment she let him in, his green eyes sharp with concern and barely contained anger. Latonia handed him her phone with trembling fingers. She'd read the message 17 times, each reading making her feel smaller and more exposed. Too bad good things never last for girls like you. Do you have any idea who this could be? Marcus asked, his jaw tight as he studied the screenshot. Latonia started, then stopped. The truth sat in her throat like a stone, heavy and sharp-edged. Maybe. Marcus looked up sharply. Maybe. Latonia sank onto her small couch, pulling her knees to her chest. There's something I didn't tell you, about why I'm so scared of good things disappearing. The guy who ghosted you? His name was Trevor Caldwell. We dated for 8 months. Latonia's voice was barely above a whisper. I really thought he might be the one. He was charming, successful, said all the right things. But toward the end, he got possessive. jealous. He didn't like when I spent time with friends or worked late, or basically had a life that didn't revolve around him. Marcus sat down beside her, close enough to offer comfort, but far enough away to give her space. What happened? I broke up with him, told him I needed space, that his behavior was scaring me. LaTonya wrapped her arms tighter around her knees. He didn't take it well. Started showing up at my work, my apartment, left flowers with notes about how we belonged together. When I blocked his number, he created new ones. When I blocked those, he started using his friends' phones. Jesus, LaTonya. Did you call the police? I tried, but he was smart about it. Never technically threatened me, never did anything they could arrest him for. The flowers weren't signed. The calls were from different numbers. And Trevor, he was a lawyer. He knew exactly how far he could push without crossing legal lines. Marcus's hands clenched into fists. How long did this go on? 6 months. Then one day, it just stopped. No more calls, no more flowers, no more glimpses of him in coffee shops or at the bus stop. I thought maybe he'd finally moved on. LaTonya looked at her phone again. But that message, girls like you, that's something he used to say. Like I was beneath him somehow, like I should be grateful for his attention. The number it came from, can we trace it? It's probably a burner phone. Trevor's not stupid. LaTonya felt the familiar anxiety creeping up her spine, making her skin crawl. Marcus, what if he's been watching me this whole time? What if he saw us together and... Hey, Marcus's voice was gentle but firm. Look at me. LaTonya lifted her head, meeting his eyes. You're not alone in this anymore, he said simply. Whatever this is, whoever this is, you don't have to handle it by yourself. But what if... No what ifs. We deal with what's actually happening, not what might happen. Marcus pulled out his own phone. First, we're changing your number. Tonight. Then we're going to the police station tomorrow and filing a report, even if they can't do anything immediately. And we're setting up better security for your apartment. Marcus, you don't understand. This could get ugly. Really ugly. Maybe you should... Don't! His voice was sharp enough to cut. Don't you dare try to push me away to protect me. That's not how this works. How what works? Love, Marcus said without hesitation. That's not how love works. The word hung between them, huge and terrifying and perfect. LaTonya felt tears blur her vision. You love me? She whispered. I love you, Marcus confirmed, his voice steady despite the fear in his eyes. I love your strength and your vulnerability and the way you worry about everyone except yourself. I love that you cry at dog videos and that you remember exactly how everyone likes their coffee. I love you, LaTonya, and some asshole from your past isn't going to change that. I love you too, she said through her tears. God, I love you so much it scares me. Marcus pulled her into his arms then, and LaTonya let herself be held. For the first time since reading that message, she felt like she could breathe properly. We're going to figure this out, Marcus murmured into her hair. Together. They spent the next hour making plans. Marcus would sleep on her couch for the next few nights, until they could figure out if Trevor was really back, or if it was just some random creep. They'd change her locks, install a security camera, vary her routines. Most importantly, they'd document everything. But as they were getting ready for bed, LaTonya's phone buzzed again. Same unknown number. New boyfriend won't save you. Some lessons need to be learned the hard way. This time, Marcus saw the message as it came in. His face went from concerned to furious in the span of a heartbeat. That's it, he said, already reaching for his jacket. I'm going to find this piece of... No, LaTonya grabbed his arm. Marcus, no. That's exactly what he wants. He wants to provoke a reaction, wants to make me feel isolated and scared. Well, congratulations to him because it's working. Maybe. But I'm not the same person I was 2 years ago. LaTonya surprised herself with the steadiness of her own voice. I'm stronger now. I have people who care about me. I have you and Keshia and a job that actually values me. He can try to tear that down, but I won't let him. Marcus studied her face, and gradually his expression shifted from anger to something that looked like pride. What changed? He asked. You, LaTonya said simply. Meeting you reminded me that I'm worth fighting for, worth protecting, worth love that doesn't come with conditions or threats. Marcus kissed her then, soft and fierce and full of promise. When they broke apart, both of them were breathing hard. Portland, LaTonya said suddenly. What about it? Maybe I should come with you. Marcus went very still. LaTonya, you just accepted your dream job. You can't run away because some asshole is trying to scare you. It's not running away. It's choosing my life instead of letting fear choose it for me. LaTonya felt a strange calm settling over her. The training position. I could probably do it remotely, at least partially. And if not, there are other opportunities. But there's only one you. Are you sure? Really sure? Because once we do this, once we take this leap together, there's no taking it back. LaTonya looked around her small apartment, at the life she'd built on fear and survival, and the desperate need to control everything. Then she looked at Marcus, at his green eyes, full of love and terror and hope. "I'm sure," she said. "Let's go to Portland. Let's start over. Let's see what happens when we stop being afraid of good things." But even as Marcus kissed her again, even as they started making plans for a future neither of them had dared to imagine a week ago, LaTonya's phone sat silent on the table between them. Silent, but not harmless, because some ghosts don't stay buried, no matter how far you run or how much love you surround yourself with. And Trevor Caldwell had always been very good at playing the long game. The police station smelled like burnt coffee and broken dreams. Detective Rivera, a woman in her 40s with kind eyes and a no-nonsense attitude, looked over the printed screenshots of Trevor's messages with the weary expression of someone who'd seen this story too many times before. "The good news is this is clearly harassment," she said, setting the papers down on her desk. "The bad news is, unless he escalates to direct threats or shows up physically, there's not much we can do beyond documenting it." LaTonya felt Marcus tense beside her. "So we just wait for it to get worse?" "We take precautions," Detective Rivera said firmly. "Change routines, install security measures, keep documenting everything, and if he does escalate, we'll be ready." As they left the station, LaTonya's phone rang. Janet's name flashed on the screen. "I have to take this," she told Marcus, stepping aside. "Hi, Janet." "LaTonya, we have a problem." Janet's voice was tight with stress. "The Portland position I mentioned? The company just contacted me. They need someone to start immediately, like next Monday. Apparently their current training coordinator just quit without notice." LaTonya's heart stopped. "Portland? The satellite office? I thought you knew we had a location there." "The position comes with relocation assistance and a 20% salary bump over what we discussed, but they need an answer today." LaTonya looked at Marcus, who was watching her with growing concern. The universe, it seemed, had a twisted sense of timing. "Can I call you back in an hour?" she managed. "Make it 30 minutes, they've got other candidates." After she hung up, Marcus didn't wait for her to explain. "Portland job? How did you—" "The look on your face. It's the same one you had when I told you about my offer." Marcus ran a hand through his hair. "Tell me." LaTonya explained Janet's call, watching as Marcus's expression cycled through surprise, hope, and something that looked suspiciously like fear. "This is perfect," he said finally. "We could both start fresh in Portland, together." "Is it perfect? Or is it just convenient?" LaTonya couldn't keep the doubt out of her voice. "Marcus, what if we're rushing into this because we're scared? What if we get to Portland and realize we don't actually know each other well enough to— To what? To build a life together?" Marcus's voice was gentler now. "LaTonya, I know you take your coffee with oat milk and an extra shot. I know you check your phone compulsively when you're anxious. I know you hum when you're concentrating, and that you cry at dog rescue videos on TikTok. Those are just details. I know you're the strongest person I've ever met, even when you don't feel strong. I know you'd rather sacrifice your own happiness than risk hurting someone you love. I know you're terrified of taking up space in the world, but you light up every room you walk into." Marcus stepped closer, taking her hands. "Those aren't just details, LaTonya. That's you, the real you, and I love every part of it." Tears blurred her vision. "What if I'm not brave enough? Then I'll be brave enough for both of us until you catch up." Her phone buzzed. Another message from Trevor's number. "Running away to Portland won't save you. I'll always know where to find girls like you." LaTonya's blood turned to ice. He knows about Portland. Marcus read the message over her shoulder, his jaw clenching. How could he possibly— He's been watching, listening somehow. LaTonya felt panic rising in her chest. "Marcus, maybe this is a sign. Maybe we shouldn't—" "No." Marcus's voice was steel. "This is exactly why we should go. You said it yourself last night. You're not the same person you were 2 years ago. You're not going to let some pathetic stalker dictate your choices." "But what if—" "LaTonya," Marcus cupped her face in his hands, forcing her to meet his eyes. "What do you want? Not what's safe, not what's practical. What do you actually want?" The answer came without hesitation. "You. I want you. I want us. I want to see what we could build together without fear hanging over everything." "Then let's go build it." LaTonya called Janet back and accepted the Portland position. As she hung up, she felt something shift inside her chest, a loosening of the tight knot of anxiety that had lived there for so long. "We're really doing this," she said, half disbelief, half wonder. "We're really doing this," Marcus confirmed. They spent the rest of the day making practical arrangements. LaTonya gave notice to her landlord, started researching apartments in Portland, called Kesha to break the news, which resulted in 20 minutes of squealing, followed by demands for daily updates. Marcus coordinated with his new employer, arranged for movers, and somehow managed to find them a short-term rental in the same neighborhood where he'd be working. But as evening fell, bringing with it the familiar Seattle drizzle, LaTonya found herself standing at her apartment window, looking out at the city she'd called home for her entire adult life. "Second thoughts?" Marcus asked, coming up behind her and wrapping his arms around her waist. "More like final thoughts," LaTonya said, leaning back against his chest. "I'm thinking about the girl who moved to this apartment 2 years ago, how scared she was, how small she felt, how she thought the best she could hope for was just getting by. And now? Now I'm thinking about the woman who's leaving in 3 days to start a new life with the man she loves in a city she's never even visited." LaTonya turned in his arms, looking up at his face. "It's terrifying and crazy and perfect, just like us." As they kissed, soft and sweet and full of promise, LaTonya's phone remained mercifully silent on the kitchen counter. For the first time in days, Trevor felt like a distant threat rather than an immediate one. But across town, in a nondescript apartment filled with photos of LaTonya taken from a distance, Trevor Caldwell was packing his own bags, because some lessons, he believed, could only be taught in person. And Portland, after all, was a lovely city for new beginnings. The storm was far from over. In fact, it was just about to hit land. 3 days in Portland, and LaTonya was finally beginning to believe in fresh starts. Their new apartment was small but bright, with large windows that let in the soft Oregon light, and a view of the tree-lined street below. Marcus had already found his rhythm with the delivery company, coming home each evening with stories about friendly customers and bike-friendly routes. LaTonya's remote training sessions were going better than she'd dared to hope. It turned out she was naturally good at explaining complex problems in simple terms. For the first time in years, she woke up excited about the day ahead, instead of dreading it. "I still can't believe we actually did it," she said, curled up against Marcus on their second-hand couch, watching the evening light filter through their windows. "Best impulse decision of my life," Marcus replied, pressing a kiss to the top of her head. "Though I have to admit I was terrified you'd change your mind at the last minute. I almost did, when the moving truck came, when I was packing the last box." LaTonya paused, remembering that moment of panic. "But then I thought about what Kesha said, about choosing to live instead of just survive. And I realized that for the first time in my adult life, I was moving towards something instead of away from it." Marcus's arms tightened around her. "I love you so much it scares me sometimes." "Good scared or bad scared?" "Good scared. Like jumping off a cliff and trusting you'll catch me scared." LaTonya tilted her head back to look at him. "I'll always catch you. Promise." "I prom—" The sound of the doorbell cut through their conversation like a knife. They looked at each other in confusion. They hadn't ordered food, weren't expecting visitors, and the delivery company had Marcus's cell number. "I'll get it," Marcus said, starting to stand. "Wait." Something cold crawled up LaTonya's spine. "Marcus, what if—" The bell rang again, longer this time, more insistent. Marcus moved to the window and carefully peered through the blinds. His entire body went rigid. "Call 911, he said quietly. "Right now." "What? Why?" But even as LaTonya asked, she knew. The fear in Marcus's voice, the careful way he was backing away from the window, there was only one explanation. "Trevor's here." The words hit LaTonya like a physical blow. Her hands shook as she reached for her phone, but before she could dial, Trevor's voice came through the door. "LaTonya, I know you're in there. We need to talk." His tone was casual, almost friendly, as if he just dropped by for coffee. But LaTonya could hear the edge underneath, the carefully controlled anger that she remembered all too well. "Don't answer," Marcus whispered, moving to position himself between LaTonya and the door. "Just call." "LaTonya, this is ridiculous. I drove all the way from Seattle to talk to you and you're going to hide behind some random guy you barely know?" Trevor's voice was getting louder. "I saw him leave for work this morning. I know his schedule. I know your schedule. I know everything about your pathetic little life in this pathetic little city." LaTonya's finger hovered over the emergency call button, but she found herself frozen. Trevor had followed them, had been watching them, For how long? Since they arrived? Since before they left Seattle? Open the door, LaTonya. We can do this the easy way or the hard way, but we're going to do it. I'm calling the police, Marcus said firmly, reaching for his own phone. No. LaTonya's voice was barely a whisper. What? Don't call them, not yet. LaTonya stood up slowly, her mind racing. He's right, he knows our schedules. He's been planning this. If we call the police now, he'll just disappear and come back later when we're not expecting it. LaTonya, no. Whatever you're thinking, no. But LaTonya was already moving toward the door, not to open it, but to press her back against it, to feel the solid wood between her and the man who had spent 2 years turning her into a shadow of herself. Trevor, she called through the door, surprised by the steadiness of her own voice. You're right, we do need to talk. LaTonya, don't... Marcus started. She held up a hand to stop him, her eyes never leaving the door. But here's the thing, Trevor. I'm not the same person you remember. I'm not scared of you anymore. Trevor's laugh was cold and sharp. We'll see about that. Open the door. No? What? I said no. You want to talk? We can talk like this. With a locked door between us and my boyfriend listening to every word you say. There was a moment of silence. Then Trevor's voice came back, lower and more dangerous. You think you're brave now? You think this new life makes you different? You're still the same pathetic girl who couldn't handle a real relationship. Still the same girl who runs away when things get difficult. You're right, LaTonya said, and she felt Marcus look at her in shock. I am the same girl who ran away. But do you know what I ran away from, Trevor? I ran away from a man who tried to control me, who made me feel small and worthless and grateful for scraps of affection, who followed me and threatened me and tried to convince me that his obsession was love. I'm not finished. LaTonya's voice was getting stronger with every word. I ran away from all of that, and you know what I found? I found a man who sees me as an equal, who supports my dreams instead of trying to crush them, who loves me without trying to own me. I found a job that values my skills. I found a sister who forgives my mistakes. I found myself, Trevor, the real me, not the version you tried to create. You don't know what real love is. Yes, I do. LaTonya turned to look at Marcus, who was watching her with a mixture of terror and pride. Real love doesn't come with conditions. Real love doesn't require fear or control or the destruction of everything else that matters to you. Real love makes you braver, not smaller. She could hear Trevor breathing heavily on the other side of the door. When he spoke again, his voice was shaking with rage. You think you're so smart. You think you've won something. But this isn't over, LaTonya. This will never be over. You're wrong, LaTonya said simply. It's already over. It was over the moment I realized that your opinion of me doesn't define my worth. It was over the moment I chose love over fear. It was over the moment I stopped running from you and started running toward the life I actually wanted. I'll be back. Maybe you will, and if you are, I'll call the police. I'll get a restraining order. I'll do whatever it takes to protect the life I've built. But I won't hide anymore, Trevor. I won't shrink myself to make you feel powerful. The silence stretched long enough that LaTonya wondered if he'd left. Then she heard footsteps moving away from the door, getting fainter until they disappeared entirely. Marcus was beside her in an instant, pulling her into his arms. Are you okay? God, LaTonya, you were incredible, but I was terrified. I'm okay, she said, and realized she meant it. I'm actually okay. They called the police anyway, filed a report, gave descriptions. Detective Rivera promised to contact the Portland authorities to put a watch on their building. Trevor's rental car was gone by the time the officers arrived, but they had his license plate number, his last known address, and most importantly, recorded threats witnessed by multiple people. Later that night, as they lay in bed listening to the unfamiliar sounds of their new city, Marcus traced gentle patterns on LaTonya's arm. How did you know? He asked softly. How did you know you were strong enough to face him? LaTonya thought about it for a long moment. I didn't, she said finally. But I knew that even if I wasn't strong enough, I had you, and I had Keisha, and I had the person I've become over these past few weeks. I wasn't facing him alone anymore. What if he comes back? Then we'll deal with it. Together. LaTonya turned to face Marcus, studying his features in the dim light filtering through their windows. I spent 2 years letting Trevor's voice live in my head, telling me I wasn't worth loving, wasn't worth protecting, wasn't worth choosing. But you know what? He was wrong. We're proof that he was wrong. Marcus kissed her then, soft and fierce and full of promise, and as they held each other in their new bed, in their new city, in their new life, LaTonya realized something that would have seemed impossible just a month ago. She wasn't afraid of the future anymore, because whatever came next, whatever challenges they faced, whatever storms they weathered, she wouldn't face them alone. And that, she thought as sleep finally claimed her, made all the difference in the world. 1 year later, the rain was falling softly on Hawthorne Boulevard, turning the Portland evening into a watercolor painting of neon reflections and blurred streetlights. LaTonya stood outside the small music venue, watching through the window as Marcus tuned his guitar on the tiny stage inside. A year ago, the sight of rain would have sent her spiraling into anxiety. Now it just reminded her of the night that changed everything. The night she learned that sometimes the storms that soak you to the bone are the ones that wash away everything you don't actually need. "You look nervous," Keisha said, appearing beside her with 2 steaming cups of coffee. Her colorful twists were hidden under a vintage beret, and she wore the confident smile of someone whose TikTok account had just hit 500K followers. "I'm not nervous," LaTonya protested, accepting the coffee gratefully. "I'm proud, there's a difference." "Uh-huh," Keisha grinned. "And the fact that you've been checking your phone every 30 seconds has nothing to do with waiting for reviews from his first EP." LaTonya glanced at her phone again and laughed. "Okay, maybe I'm a little nervous, but only because I want the world to hear what I hear when he plays. I want them to understand how incredible he is." Through the window, they could see Marcus adjusting the microphone, his green eyes scanning the small crowd that had gathered to hear him perform. When his gaze found LaTonya through the glass, his entire face lit up with the kind of smile that made her believe in magic. "He's really something special, isn't he?" Keisha said softly. "Yeah," LaTonya agreed. "He really is." The past year had been a symphony of small moments and quiet revelations. Marcus had started playing again 3 months after they moved to Portland. First just for LaTonya in their apartment, then at open mic nights, and finally recording a collection of songs he'd written about love and second chances and the courage it takes to trust someone with your whole heart. LaTonya's training coordinator position had evolved into something she'd never expected. She was now developing online mental health resources for call center workers, combining her customer service experience with her hard-won knowledge about anxiety and resilience. It wasn't the elementary teaching career she'd once dreamed of, but it was something better, work that mattered, that helped people, that made her excited to get up in the morning. And Trevor. Trevor had tried to contact her twice more, once through a fake social media account, once through a letter sent to her old Seattle address that Keisha had forwarded unopened to the police. Both incidents had been documented, added to the growing file that made it clear his behavior was escalating in ways that courts took seriously. The restraining order had been approved 6 months ago. Detective Rivera called it one of the most clear-cut cases of stalking she'd seen, helped by LaTonya's meticulous documentation and Marcus's unwavering support. "Ladies and gentlemen," came the muffled announcement from inside the venue, "please welcome Marcus Thompson." LaTonya and Keisha hurried inside, finding spots near the back where they could watch without making Marcus more nervous than he already was. The venue was small and intimate, filled with the kind of people who came to hear new music on a Thursday night in Portland, artists and dreamers, and believers in the power of songs to change things. Marcus stepped up to the microphone, his guitar gleaming under the stage lights. "Hi everyone, thanks for coming out on such a rainy night." A few people chuckled. "I want to start with a song I wrote about a woman who taught me that love isn't about finding someone perfect. It's about finding someone brave enough to be imperfect with you." The first notes rang out, clear and honest and achingly beautiful. LaTonya felt tears prick at her eyes as Marcus began to sing, his voice carrying the story of their beginning. The rain, the tears, the coffee shop, where 2 broken people found a way to be whole together. She was standing in the storm, letting water wash away all the words that held her down, all the fears that made her stay. LaTonya closed her eyes, letting the music flow over her. When she opened them again, Marcus was looking directly at her, singing the bridge she'd heard him work on for months in their apartment. "And if love is just a leap from the safety of the shore, then I'll jump into the deep, 'cause you're everything worth drowning for." The crowd was completely silent, hanging on every word. Keisha reached over and squeezed LaTonya's hand, her eyes bright with tears of her own. Marcus finished the song to enthusiastic applause, then moved into the rest of his set. Songs about resilience and hope, and the way ordinary moments could become extraordinary when shared with the right person. By the time he played his final song, the small venue felt electric with possibility. After the show, as people slowly filtered out into the rainy Portland night, Marcus made his way over to where Latonia and Keshia waited by the bar. "So?" he asked, nervous energy radiating from every pore. "How was it? You want my honest opinion?" Latonia asked, standing up from her bar stool. Marcus nodded, though he looked like he might throw up. "It was perfect," she said simply. "You were perfect. That song, our song, it was everything I felt but couldn't put into words." Marcus's shoulders sagged with relief. "Really? Really?" Latonia cupped his face in her hands, studying the features she'd come to know so well, the laugh lines around his green eyes, the small scar on his chin from a childhood bike accident, the way his whole face softened when he looked at her. "I'm so proud of you, Marcus, not just tonight but every day, for choosing to dream again, for choosing to trust again, for choosing me. Choosing you was the easiest decision I ever made," Marcus said, pulling her close. "Even when it was terrifying, even when we didn't know how it would work out, choosing you always felt like coming home." Keshia cleared her throat loudly. "Okay, I hate to interrupt this beautiful moment, but I have news." They turned to look at her, and Latonia was surprised to see her sister practically vibrating with excitement. "I got the internship," Keshia announced. "The social media position with that non-profit in Portland. I'm moving here next month." Latonia felt her heart expand with joy. "Keshia, that's incredible." "I know, right? I mean, I'll miss Seattle, but..." Keshia grinned. "I want to be close to my sister. I want to be part of whatever you two are building here." As they hugged, Latonia realized that this was what happiness looked like. Not a single perfect moment, but a collection of ordinary ones made extraordinary by love and connection and the courage to keep showing up for each other. Later that night, as she and Marcus walked home through the gentle rain, Latonia found herself thinking about the woman she'd been a year ago, the one who stood crying outside a coffee shop, convinced that good things weren't meant for girls like her. The one who measured her worth by how little space she took up in the world, how few needs she had, how invisible she could make herself. "What are you thinking about?" Marcus asked, noticing her thoughtful silence. "The rain," Latonia said, tilting her face up to catch the droplets. "How different it feels now." "Different how?" "Before, rain felt like the world crying, like everything sad and overwhelming and impossible." She smiled, taking his hand as they walked. "Now it just feels like water, clean and fresh and full of possibility." Marcus stopped walking and pulled her into his arms, right there on the sidewalk in the gentle Portland rain. "I love you, Latonia Denise Harris. I love your strength and your softness and the way you see beauty in ordinary moments. I love the life we've built together and the life we're still building. I love you too, Marcus Jamal Thompson. I love that you pulled me out of the storm and taught me that some things are worth getting soaked for." As they kissed in the rain, surrounded by the soft glow of streetlights and the distant sound of music drifting from late-night venues, Latonia realized something profound. She was no longer afraid of storms, because she'd learned that sometimes, when you stop running from the rain and start dancing in it instead, you discover that you were strong enough to weather anything all along. You just needed someone to remind you that you deserved to dance. So here's my question for you. Have you ever let fear talk you out of something beautiful? Have you ever been brave enough to choose love over safety, dreams over security, hope over cynicism? What would happen if you stopped running from your storms and started dancing in them instead? Your participation in the channel is very important. Please leave your opinion in the comments. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and comment your thoughts. Your participation is very important to us. See you next time.